Okay. Okay, now that this is being recorded, we can officially get started. I think our host got kicked out. So, all right, welcome. Hopefully everyone has, do I need to wait for, oh, there we go. Okay, now it's no longer me. Okay. Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Ellis Meng. I am currently serving as a Vice Dean for Technology, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship. I'm also faculty in biomedical engineering and electrical and computer engineering. And so welcome today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the Office of Technology and Innovation and Entrepreneurship does on campus. All right, so let me start off with our mission. And this is, I think, a good place to start. Our goal is really to serve everyone in the engineering community and then more. In fact, we do have a primary mission of providing education, but also support as you go through the education pipeline and progress in your thinking and your ideas, and you want to somehow achieve an impact with what it is that you're doing. And I mean that in sort of the broadest sense. So we welcome students, faculty, staff from Viterbi, and we also welcome participants from outside the school and sometimes even outside of the university to participate in some of our programs. And we are looking to pursue innovation, entrepreneurship, always thinking first of ethics and inclusion. So let me start off here before I go to the next slide and get a poll in a sense for how many of you are from Viterbi. Okay, so probably the majority is from Viterbi. How about from Dornside? Okay, one person in Dornside heard. So I don't know how you found out, but you're the lucky Dornside student that heard. How about from Marshall? Okay, word got out to some Marshall students. Gould, Iveen and Young, right? Right, we got one. How about Keck? Anyone from Keck? Did I miss any units? Okay, I think we covered it all. So look around, we have representation from a number of different units, and actually this is the second info session. So we also had some participation from I think public policy in the previous session as well. So we really do welcome everybody. Typically to participate, we usually ask that you make friends in Viterbi, especially with Viterbi students. And that's oftentimes a ticket in the door. Now, one thing that sets us apart from other programs you'll see on campus is our focus is going to be on technology, right? So we support everything that deals with deep technology. And what do I mean by that? Because we always get asked that question. So there are many folks that might utilize technology that's already developed to do something useful. That's fine, that's great, but we're hoping that there is some innovation around the technology that allows you to get an edge and potentially even apply for a patent. So are you someone who's innovated in the area of technology? Are you, have you sort of crossed the threshold of becoming an inventor? If you start to move in those directions, that's what we really want to support. And if you're in some of those other areas, you still might benefit from some of our programs, so you're welcome to participate. So we do have to draw a couple of lines because there are areas that we don't have the ability to exercise our programs in. And so what we don't do is we don't step into technology transfer. That's actually handled centrally at the USC Stevens Center for Innovation. So if you have an invention that you're working on for a class, typically the university is not going to take ownership of it. But sometimes as you encounter lawyers along the way that help you, they want the university to sign off on that. And for that, you have to go to USC Stevens Center for Innovation. If you happen to be doing research with a faculty member who has federally funded research, in that case, if there's an invention, the university actually owns it through something called the Bayh-Dole Act. And that also has to go through the university. Outside of those sort of general areas, I think there's a lot more flexibility, but that's often a question that gets asked. And those are some generic answers. We can get into detail if you want to know more, but there's a limit to what I can tell you based on just simply what I know. And so that kind of distinguishes what it is that we do. So I want to start off here and maybe motivate why you want to get involved. I think some of you see entrepreneurship in the title, and maybe in your future is actually, a startup, maybe as a co-founder, maybe as another important role player as a CTO or some other important role. Some of you are motivated to do that kind of legwork and really generate something on your own. That's fantastic. But if you remember, I'm talking about impact in the broadest sense. And so innovation really encompasses a lot more than that. And there are different ways to make impact that are not necessarily commercial. So if you do something that solves a particular problem but ends up being a nonprofit or something that you open source, that is all fantastic as well. And we might be able to help a little bit in your journey there. And so, usually what we're talking about is something new, a new innovation. And, I put in useful in parentheses. There's a lot of new stuff that is not useful. So we do want to focus on things that solve real problems in a significant way, but it does not have to involve business opportunity. And you could be at the very early stage where you're doing some blue sky research and you don't know what use is, but you're involved in some high risk, high impact research, and you're solving some real problems that could eventually come up with something that's truly impactful, right? Bottom line is that while we're here in engineering, is we're solving problems of all different kinds, and I think importantly, to make it useful, we have to identify and very carefully select the problems that we're working on, and try to address things that actually will make the world a better place. So you can think of this program as layered on top of all your coursework that you're doing as a way to do some intellectual cross training and get skills outside of what you typically would get in your classroom, and help better yourself so that you can position yourself to make a positive impact down the road. So if you are here, you're interested in the startup world, it turns out Los Angeles is a fantastic place to be. So if you're looking at this map and you're noticing there are a lot of dots on there and some of them are overlapping, that's good. So the star there with sort of all the dots around it, that's campus. That's the University Park campus. I did put the other campuses in there as well. But you, from here, can get a sense that there are many startups here, accelerators, incubators, funders, other sort of ecosystem builders that can help as you create your startup. And I think what LA is especially good at, in fact, is tech, although it's not necessarily as well known. We don't necessarily do a great job of advertising. I think most of you understand that LA is huge in terms of its economic impact worldwide. If you look at gross domestic product, it's the third after Tokyo and New York. So we have a pretty prominent place in the world. And as far as tech, we're the third largest tech ecosystem in the US. And you probably could guess what the others are. And we're also one of the fastest growing. I think if you look at key industries that are really coming in LA, gaming, e-commerce, I think you've heard of aerospace, which is more traditional space exploration, other technologies, VR, AR, so virtual reality, augmented reality. And also something you might not know is LA is big in manufacturing. So there's a lot of manufacturing that's sort of hidden maybe to the eye, but is definitely embedded in Los Angeles. Another big thing is LA brags that we basically graduate more engineers than anywhere else in the US, right? Than any other US city. We are home to a large number of engineering students and engineering graduates. All right, so good place to be. For most of you, your journey will begin through classes, and there are a number of different classes you can engage in to sample technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We have programs that are in a track. There's actually a new minor, which I've sort of highlighted at the very bottom, in engineering innovation for global challenges, or sometimes it's called global crises minor. That's one way to basically dedicate yourself to engaging in a course of study, a number of different classes that will provide, I think, a 360 view of how you can make a difference. And then there's specific select classes that you can take. In engineering, we offer in the very first year for undergraduates, usually a two lecture module on engineering, innovation, and entrepreneurship in our freshman academy class. And then after that, you can kind of pick and choose from a menu of different courses that are undergraduate targeted, also graduate targeted. We have certificate programs in a number of different areas, and some of them joint with Marshall as well. And so one of the outcomes actually of a course that was embedded in what is now the minor, actually a course grew into a minor. You may have actually seen the Lives Not Grades documentary. It recently received a Los Angeles area Emmy, and I think it's still available if you want to watch it. What we do that is student oriented is captured in we have a lot of acronyms that were left over by my predecessor, Viterbi Student Innovation Institute, so VSI squared. And really, this is a whole series of different programs that are course-based and sort of co-curricular, extracurricular, that may even be off-site, that are supposed to help you through this journey. This is I'm going to show you a snapshot of what we have now. If you see something, or if you know of something that you find absent in our programming, we're always, I think, updating what we do based on feedback. And so we welcome that, and the possibility of also developing some new programs that are driven by your input. All right, so usually our warm-up program, when you start talking about potential prize money to help you advance some of the ideas that you have, is this Atoms, Bits, and Cells program. This one is restricted. This is probably the one that's most restricted. It's specifically for Viterbi undergraduates. Viterbi undergraduates, if you want to get help elsewhere, you probably could. It might be good to acknowledge them as part of your team, but we won't give you any credit for that, really, right? Because these teams, and actually your sort of team members beyond Viterbi aren't necessarily going to get any part of the prize money that's awarded. So we will award each year 3 prizes of $1,000 per team. You can kind of split it up any way you want based on number of team members. And the A and the B and the C basically encompasses anything I think that could possibly be deep tech, and that might be relevant to Viterbi. And so we'll have info sessions for this program later in the year because it really starts getting going in the spring of the following year. And it's a little bit shorter in terms of its duration. It's only in the spring and finishes up pretty quickly. This is a program that is specifically tied to a course. It's part of our Hacking for Defense program, where we take technologies and we look at uses, dual use scenarios. So technologies that may have like a consumer use, but as well as a military use. There are many of those examples. And so this is actually taught by a pair of people, Professor Cliff Newman, and then also Farzeen Samadani, who's a trained Hacking for Defense instructor. And then we also bring in many military experts. And so you actually get to listen to and hear about different real problems that they're facing and pose solutions to this. And I think we've had great success and great feedback from our partners in the military. We've even sent a team to the Pentagon. Some of the teams have gone off to compete for additional prizes in the Marshall School and have actually earned some real cash to further advance their ideas. I'm going to put in yellow boxes links to every program, but if you head to viterbiinnovation.usc.edu, you can find everything pretty much I'll talk about today. And you'll actually have access to all the slides, so don't worry if you don't memorize this. We have 2 flagship programs that each end with a finalist that wins a $50,000 grand prize. We do not take any equity, any ownership in anything that we do. This is all free help to support you. So it's crazy not to take advantage of it. So the first one is the Massey Entrepreneurship Prize Competition. This one is technology agnostic. We welcome everything from every sector. You can participate in a series of workshops. You get a lot of help along the way. And the whole idea is as you go through our pipeline and go through stage after stage of this competition, you refine your idea to the point where if you make it to the finals, you get to present to a panel of judges. And we typically recruit judges that are potential funders, right? So this is a real pitch to a set of, could be angel investors, could be venture capitalists. It'll be a surprise when we get to that point who is on our panel. The top teams also get a package of free legal services. And so we have partnered again with DLA Paper, which is all over the US, I believe the world as well. And they have a Los Angeles office that we've partnered with. And so we have a general info session at the end of this month. Applications open soon. The kickoff, I think after a lot of back and forth, is in fact set for December 6th, which is right after classes. And so if you apply and you make it past the initial cut, you are welcome to a kickoff event. And typically at that kickoff event, you'll also get to meet your mentor that we assign to your team. Workshops typically will start in January. There will be a semifinals sometime in the spring, and the finals will end sometime in April, and then we'll make the announcement. So the picture in the upper right-hand corner is the team that won last year, Playbook VR, and they're interested in low-code solutions to virtual reality. And I believe they're actually a pair of undergraduates, and they're still going strong. Min Family Challenge is our other $50,000 grand prize program. The key difference here, and what we do differently than the other program, is that we're very focused because of the founder, the sort of donors, is we're very focused on using engineering to solve problems for those who are less fortunate. And so our donors, the Min family, is really dedicated to seeing engineering create social good impact. And so we've aligned ourselves with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so that multicolor graphic on the right is actually, it captures the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. If you're working in that area, you'll probably overlap with more than one of these. Again, $50,000 grand prize. We have legal service prizes to the top team. In this case, we recognize some of the things that come out may be nonprofit. And so we've teamed up with a portion of DLA Piper that actually has expertise in nonprofits. We have an info session. Actually, that just happened. Some of you were at that info session. I think were recruited by Trina, David, maybe Abby, and Susan to come to this particular meeting. Applications are going to be due at the end of October. So utilize this opportunity as well as a networking session that we'll have a little bit later to make friends, form teams, refine your ideas, and get input on what it is that you're planning on doing. On the bottom left-hand corner is a team that won last year. Actually, this team came out of CE 486, which is an anchor course in that minor for global crises. And the team's name is Remedy, and what they're doing is developing wearable pillboxes for the homeless that they can carry their medications safely wherever they go. There are additional programs that are within the office as well as in partnership with departments. We have a small venture fund, and that does help teams that are very far along get additional funding for launching. We don't lead funding rounds, we co-fund with the lead investor, so it's a slightly different model. And then also new this year, and I'm not sure if this is going to happen every year, but at least this year there's the DOS family, Civil and Environmental Engineering Student Competition, and there's the graphic for that is on the right, and they have a $15,000 grand prize. Now, the only criteria here is that you actually have to find a civil engineering student to be on your team, because it is a program that comes out of the Civil Environmental Engineering department. So this is just a snapshot of what is out there, and there are many more that are not within our office that are handled by partner programs. And so I encourage you to look beyond what we do and also look at other programs. You're probably wondering, I've gone through a whole list of different opportunities. Classes, of course, they're open to anybody to take, but for the competitions, I have an idea, and it potentially applies to more than one. Can I apply to more than one? Absolutely. You can apply to all the programs. There's no restriction. The only restriction is you have to find a Viterbi friend if you're not in Viterbi. So, okay, this is old. So let me skip past that. So I want to talk a little bit about what we do that's sort of beyond campus as well. So in Marina Del Rey, we actually have a unit called the Viterbi Startup Garage. It's our incubator. It's co-located with the Information Sciences Institute that's out there. And we also have a regional program which goes from California all the way on up through Colorado with multiple university partners. And we're part of the National Innovation Network and National Innovation Ecosystem funded by the National Science Foundation. That's called the I-Core Hub program. So the Viterbi Startup Garage, this is a picture of it. It's literally right out on the marina in Marina Del Rey. We occupy some space on the 5th floor and provide free office space to startups that apply to our program and make it past the cut. We bring in probably around 5 teams at any particular cohort, 2 cohorts a year, so roughly 10 teams at a time. These teams not only get sort of free office space and Wi-Fi, but they get access to programming. We bring in lawyers, investors, past CEOs to talk about their experience. We have dedicated innovators and residents that basically check in and look at the progress different teams are making. If you're not at that stage yet, there's still a way to participate. We also offer a summer internship program that we call Summer Smasher, and that allows you to, as a student, participate in some of the educational programs, but also work with a startup. So it is an internship program, meaning it's not compensated. We actually view it as an educational program, but I think it's a great look at what life is like inside of a startup and what some of the struggles are without necessarily having to take that risk yourself from day one. And so this is that program again. This program happens in the summer, and so you won't hear much more about it until the spring, but just know that it's coming as you consider what you're going to do. I know it's far off, in summer of 2023. Okay, so National Science Foundation If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it is one of the major funding agencies that funds basic research across a number of different areas. One of their emphases is in engineering, and this particular funding agency that's funded by taxpayer dollars created this I-Corps program probably about 2010, 2011 or so. And they realized that one of the gaps is that a lot of the technology developed in universities really only ever makes it out to publication and peer-reviewed literature, but that doesn't actually have much impact beyond that. And so they started this quite revolutionary program at the time and essentially awarded $50,000 research grants to not do research of the laboratory kind, but in fact to actually talk to individuals within a particular potential market sector to figure out if the technology you develop actually does solve a real problem, and if someone importantly is actually going to pay for it. Can you create a viable company out of an invention that was funded by the National Science Foundation through one of their standard research grants? And so for this particular program, there are multiple routes to get in. One route to get in is to work in a research lab and conduct research on a topic that actually generates intellectual property. The National Science Foundation is pretty keen on the technologies that they support actually have to generate some patents potentially, so there's some protection. Otherwise, it's oftentimes a difficult road for a tech company to survive. That's one way of doing that. Another way of doing this is actually to come up with the ideas on your own and pursue that patent protection on your own, but utilize some of our training programs to qualify for this $50,000 grant. And so routinely throughout the year, we offer mini trainings called Zap and Boom. And they're, I would say, intro courses to the full Teams program, which gives you the $50,000 grant. It requires that you do more than 100 customer discovery interviews. And so you learn very valuable skills like picking up the phone, if you still use the phone, and doing what's called a cold call. And you talk to someone you have never met in your life, and you ask them for very important information that will help you decide on whether or not to pursue a particular opportunity. And so the main question that you're trying to answer is, who's going to buy it? You know, are there enough folks out there that have the same pain and that are willing to pay for your innovation and potentially come back and pay over and over again? All right. So I've kind of bombarded you with a ton of stuff, and you may still be wondering, you know, is this right for me? I'm not sure where to start, how to start. Maybe I have a question about whether or not I can find a team member. And so for that, you can schedule some time with Professor Trina Gregory. So her calendar link is up there, or you can send her an email, but she meets with students all the time, and she's often the first stop. And you don't have to go through her. If you're ready to jump into one of her programs, fine. But if you've got questions and need to talk to someone that just has a bunch of experience helping students find at least a starting path, definitely feel free to talk to her. We are also this year planning on starting office hours with other mentors and investors. That's still sort of to be figured out at this stage as we sort of launch our academic year programs. Eventually, we will announce those. If you want to stay tuned to what it is that we're doing, what we're offering, I would say sign up for our newsletter and also pay attention to our website. Those are the two places where we'll disseminate information on what we're doing. All right, so let's say that you love everything that you see here. You're not necessarily ready to jump in, but you wouldn't mind earning a little bit of extra money on the side. We are hiring student workers. We hire student workers for a number of different things. So if you've been through some of our programs before, sometimes we get our best student workers from past participants. They can actually come in and help us teach the 2 modules in Engineering 102. We have student workers that basically help facilitate our competitions and run our programs, including MEPC, MFC. Sorry, I'm speaking in acronyms. But I mentioned to you what all those were before. And then Summer Smasher, there's a TA for that. And then usually when we have a K through 12 program, we'll have a student worker TA and possibly facilitators for that as well. And so we're not sure yet if that's going to happen this year. It will depend because I'm trying to bring in a full staff for the program that we do. We're in the process of also hiring full-time staff to help us carry out all the programs that you've seen here. So, bottom line is, we're here to help. You're already at the second info session. I basically repeated what I did at the first one. But what I want to do at this stage is open it up to any questions you have after I answer the initial round of questions. If you are already in the process of creating a startup and you have an idea and you're looking for team members, I'll also give those of you who are in that situation an opportunity to stand up and make your 30-second pitch and try to recruit some team members to your effort. Okay, yep, question.
So I just want to know, because this is more on the research side, I believe that Marshall also has something similar. I wonder if you guys work separate or together, or like how it's going to work, because they also work on innovation and something like that.
Yeah, so we actually collaborate. And in fact, if I had actually gone on and showed you additional slides with personnel, we actually have a number of folks on this slide, actually two in particular, Abby Pfeiffer-Mendel and Hovig Chalan, who are professors over in Marshall that help teach in some of our programs. So oftentimes we will cross-advertise each other's programs. Sometimes we will supply instructors to one another's programs. So Denise McKinsey, who is the lead instructor for the Massey Entrepreneurship Prize competition, is also teaching a class in Marshall this year, for example.
And also on the student side?
Yes. So do we interface with Stevens? We definitely let them know what we're up to. But there, I would say emphasis is a little bit different. Largely what they deal with are faculty-driven innovations because they're sort of required to by law by Dole Act. And so they don't necessarily get into student innovation that much. Yeah.
Are you able to submit multiple projects?
Yes. However, your attention will be divided. And you really, I think that it is in theory possible. I'm not going to tell you you can't do it. I'll just say that there's only so much time in the day, right? So if you want to do more than one, yeah, I would recommend at least having a slightly different team so that you can divide up the work, right? I think it's probably happened in the past, although I can't remember a specific example off the top of my head. We've had teams actually compete in successive years with slightly different ideas. That's happened as well. So if you're a student and you're here long enough, you can apply 1 year with your sort of initial idea, then you go off and you do your thing and refine it and come back and you apply a second year. That's possible as well. Yeah. So we get asked that, yes. Good question. At the time of application, because I can't control when you guys graduate, and PhD students are coming in and out all the time. So at the time the application is due, if you are in fact a student and enrolled and taking classes, we will count you as a student. If you graduate between now and whenever the competition is, congratulations. Yes, the only caveat is ABC, the undergraduate one.
We award the money for the undergrads. They need to be a graduate in the spring to actually give them the money. That's the only hiccup we have.
Yeah, for the other programs, so for MEPC, how do we like to award the money? We'd like to just write one check to the incorporated entity, whatever that is. For MFC, we typically go on a reimbursement model. Yep. Question in the back. Can the teams conclude non-USC students as long as you have your Viterbi anchor student? There are teams that definitely have membership from outside of Viterbi. For example, in MFC, in our Min Family Challenge, we've had teams that have partnered with local nonprofits, and they're a critical part of what they're trying to do, and that's encouraged, in fact, right? But there needs to be some engineering, and there needs to be a link, right, through a student. Okay. All right. So let me just, so Trina Greger, who I pointed out earlier, does Adams Bits and Cells. She does office hours. She's at Min Family Challenge. And I'm probably not listing everything that she does. David Gerber actually also teaches in the Min Family Challenge and is off for the CE486 class in Romania right now. So he was one of the folks that actually won an Emmy with the Lives Not Great. So he's not here. Sandeep Gupta is the lead for Engineering Honors Program, which has both an innovation track and a research track. The key difference there is that in the innovation track, you don't produce a research thesis, you produce a business plan or a commercialization plan as the output there. And you get a designation on your diploma, I think, for that. And then, so I've mentioned Denise, I've mentioned Cliff and Farzine. And then Susan Angus, she comes to us from the Commission on Voluntary Service and Action. If you're participating in the Min Family Challenge or with the info session, you've met Susan. She is a fantastic resource who is so well connected throughout the US and in the world. I think she's one of the folks that has provided input into the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so if you participate in the Min Family Challenge or even some of our educational sessions, you know, I would say definitely get to know Susan. And then the C Entrepreneurship Prize Competition, Dave Eastman is also the director of our startup garage. He's an instructor there. I think I've mentioned the others. Dave also heads up our venture fund. And then our iCore Hub, these are some of the individuals that you may see. Stacey Ann Russell is our director. She's both an engineer. She did not get her degree from Viterbi, and I won't. I'm not going to give the. But she did get her MBA from Marshall. So yeah, we'll give her that. And then Professor Alex Grady-Reed does research on innovation. Brian is the hub coordinator and Farzine is the lead instructor there. So these are folks that you might encounter. And then I've mentioned this before, you know, definitely sign up. There's a convenient QR code if you need it. And this is sort of everything in our programs. I want to open it up now. In the last session, actually, there was a team that gave me a couple of slides they wanted to present, and they were recruiting some engineers. But I will open it up now. Are there any folks out there that have an idea, they want to present their idea, or if they are looking for team members to add, you guys, you're welcome, right, to raise your hand and speak for a few minutes. Yeah, okay, got one in the back. Go ahead. Is there a requirement for how far along the ideas? No, we actually get ideas at all stages. And so one thing to keep in mind is the further along you are, the better off you'll do, because we wind up getting folks that are literally just starting out. They just met, they just formed a team, and they're beginning to work together, and others that are that have been working together for quite some time because it's, you know, professor's research and they've been doing this for a couple of years and they've gotten however hundreds of thousands of dollars to work on it. So we get teams at both ends of the spectrum. But you know, even so, we have teams at both ends that win, right?
They found a
Yeah.
real problem, right? They have a really good problem space and they found a solution in that problem space.
Yep. Absolutely. Anyone else?
I know that there's people looking for other people, right?
You can't remain anonymous as Tina's talk to you. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. So Mark is looking for what you're looking for engineers? Okay. Great. Yep.
But do you have any like Slack channel that is only related to you guys? So that people can be involved and like talk about their ideas or recruit.
We have thought about it. I don't think we have a Slack channel set up yet, but what we will have, and that I didn't announce here, is we plan to offer a networking session. And so we'll provide food, and I believe it's going to be in this room on the 6th of October, and I forget the time. Johanna, do you know the time? Oh, it's RTH, not this room, so. Yeah, and so that'll be open to everybody, and have some food and drink, and then network, right? Form teams, and it's positioned to be before, I think, most of our deadlines, right? So you'll have a chance, but you're welcome, right? There's several weeks between now and then, so you're welcome to make friends. There are many Slack channels, I think, for the university. Not one that I know of in Viterbi that's dedicated for innovation. I think maybe there's something in martial arts. I'm not exactly sure. But we've thought about the challenge is that you all choose to communicate in the way that you communicate, and not everyone's on Slack. There's not one platform, right, that we could use to get to all of you. And I'm not sure how all of you heard about what we're doing, but we primarily will advertise through website and our mailing list, which is by email. And then maybe, I don't know, when we have more time, we'll have more social media presence.
But sometimes we post in the hallway of the Viterbi. So
Slack.
everyone knows how to do that.
Or maybe no one pays attention to the hallway announcements because there's too many. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you tell us if there's a better way.
There's a hallway channel in Viterbi Slack. There's a hallway channel in Viterbi Slack. Yeah. No. Again.
It's very hard. And there's also the Engage SC interface, which we're trying.
We are also part of Engage SC. If you know about that one for events and such, and student groups. So we're also on that. We're trying to meet you where you are.
It's just that it's a lot of places, and we haven't found them all. So if you have suggestions on where we should advertise to get to you, we're happy to also adopt that. Yeah.
All of these students, email us. I know it's not the best way, or actually maybe through structures, like through our PIs. Maybe that's not our way. PIs usually like forward a message from the advisor or to our advisors, maybe. Also coming back.
Yeah.
We tend to not to get our email with that, but it's a better way, I guess, to get our attention.
It's a persistent challenge, not looking at emails, but that's not isolated to students. So that's everybody, because there are too many. Or we don't fully digest everything that's in an email. Yeah. Well,
Is this related to me? Archive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, feel free to have more pizza. Feel free to hang around. We have the room for at least another 10 minutes. And if you're, you can talk to Mark or anybody else here that might be looking. Don't be shy, because I think if you have, and I know Viterbi students, some folks will often complain that Viterbi students are shy. You got to get past that and start networking, right? Because that, innovation really is a people sport, right? It takes a lot of, there's no such thing really as the lone innovator that really makes it. And so, you really want to develop a team around you that have complementary expertise. So I would really suggest taking advantage of the fact that USC has so many different schools and so much expertise out there, and leverage all those resources while you're a student, and people are really here to help you. Okay. So thanks for coming, and enjoy the pizza and the drink. And we'll send out a copy of the recording as well as a copy of the slides afterwards. Everyone.